When you pay millions of dollars for a penthouse and a brand new luxury high-rise, you assume the building is structurally flawless. But the Millennium Tower in San Francisco proved that a premium price tag guarantees nothing. For years, the owners of these luxury units were trapped in a bitter legal battle as their building visibly leaned into the street. By October 2020, a massive global settlement finally stepped in to stop the bleeding. The parties pooled together $100 million for a complex engineering fix to halt the tilt, alongside a series of confidential private payouts to compensate the condo owners for plunging property values. Yet after all the panic and a 9-figure resolution, the mediation ended with a startling conclusion. 0 parties officially admitted fault. This chart maps a distressed asset's lifecycle. Property values see a brutal drop as structural issues make headlines, leveling off here at the global settlement marker. And at that exact point, the legal record shows an admitted liability at exactly 0%. This exposes a massive blind spot for anyone evaluating urban real estate today, well beyond San Francisco. If catastrophic structural failures end in legal stalemates, how exactly are you supposed to protect your capital? To figure that out, we need to analyze the 2 competing theories behind why this building sank, and then build a definitive pre-purchase checklist to mitigate your risk. When the legal system prioritizes stopping the financial bleeding over establishing accountability, the entire burden of finding foundational red flags shifts onto you, the buyer, before you ever sign the contract. The first theory for the failure points straight at the private developer, arguing they cut corners to save money. Rather than spending the capital to drill the foundation completely down into solid bedrock, the builders opted for friction piles. This meant resting the immense weight of the tower in the dense sand and mud above the rock. The immediate trade-off of this development philosophy is that it forces prospective buyers to hire specialized structural engineers to verify a building's safety, adding significant costs to your upfront due diligence. The competing theory shifts the blame outward, focusing on the impact of public city infrastructure altering the surrounding environment. This photograph shows the sheer scale of the transit project built right next door to the tower. Engineers hypothesize that continuous, massive city digging can disrupt San Francisco's delicate soil structure and shift the local water table. Looking closely at this deep excavation site, you can see the complex soil layers and historic structures hidden directly beneath the street level. When you remove millions of tons of earth next to an existing skyscraper, these environmental variables can push well-engineered soil past its breaking point. But if you decide to avoid heavy infrastructure zones entirely, you face a harsh trade-off. You severely restrict your investment options, potentially forcing yourself out of rapidly appreciating, high-growth urban centers. Whether the threat is internal cost-cutting or external city digging, the polished marble lobbies and luxury aesthetics completely obscure the geotechnical realities dictating the building's survival. This brings us back to the global settlement. The trapped condo owners ultimately agreed to a deal without an admission of fault for a very practical reason. Signing that agreement released the massive pooled funding required to physically brace the tower and stop it from sinking. But the negative trade-off is severe. Keeping the root cause legally unassigned prevents systemic industry reform and leaves future buyers completely in the dark. Here's a high-rise risk scorecard to cut through that obscurity. Highest priority, verifying foundation depth, checking if the building is anchored into solid bedrock. Next, review geotechnical reports to understand the historical composition of the soil. Finally, survey the surrounding blocks for deep excavation infrastructure projects. Utilizing this rigorous pre-purchase framework lowers the mathematical probability of buying into a depreciating, structurally compromised asset. The harsh reality of this strict approach is that it requires passing on beautifully staged, aesthetically perfect properties if they have hidden subsurface red flags. Applying this level of scrutiny will invariably extend your property search timeline by months. Effective due diligence in modern urban real estate requires a rigorous, expensive evaluation of the unseen environment beneath your feet, moving far beyond the scope of a standard inspection. Let's map out how to align your personal risk tolerance with the realities of urban development on this quadrant chart, measuring due diligence effort against investment security. We'll start with the risk-averse buyer, whose primary goal is strict capital preservation. For this group, the mandate is clear. Subsurface reports and neighborhood infrastructure plans must be weighed as heavily as square footage and views. Then we have the aggressive optimizer, whose primary goal is securing premium locations in rapidly expanding urban centers. If this is your strategy, you must factor the risk of protracted legal assessments and sudden property value hits into your long-term ROI calculations. The legal system is designed to stop financial bleeding through settlements. It is not designed to establish architectural truth for the public. Your ultimate safety relies entirely on your willingness to investigate beneath the foundation before you ever sign the closing documents. Next time, we're looking at the technical details of how engineers actually attempted to lift this 311,000-ton skyscraper. We'll explain why their multi-million-dollar fix accidentally made the sinking worse. Because in modern high-rise real estate, the true cost of a premium view is the hidden, unresolved liability buried in the soil below.